Hello, Lorenzo here. This is episode 24 of KSP Next, where we attempt to get some science from Mars. And we've attempted this before, but then we had problems either with the rocket or with the telemetry or with something else. Hopefully, this episode will go better. We jump into the action with the rocket, the Newcomb 2, which is on a mission to Venus. Yes, because I like non sequiturs. We have two of these rockets. One is going to Venus, one is going to Mars. The one to Venus has solar panels, the one to Mars has solar panels and radioisotope thermal generators. Unfortunately, this happens to the one that's going to Venus. The ascent trajectory was a little bit too shallow, and the aerodynamic compression heating overheated the cryogenic second stage, and then everything went from bad to worse. So Venus will not be seeing a second orbiter today, nor will it in a year, because it would in fact take some time to get there. So that brings us on to the meat of the episode, the Red Ranger 4. We've accepted 2 contracts to fly by Mars and to return science from there, and for ourselves we want to establish orbit around Mars and possibly also explore Deimos and Phobos, for the massive science mother load. With this new rocket technology that we are currently using, we have about 18 kilometers per second of delta V in the whole stack combined. So that's a friggin' shit ton, which leads to those optimistic mission objectives. Here we are at first stage burnout, coming up to separate, just waiting until we exit the atmosphere to keep the fuel settled, hopefully. Wait, that doesn't have anything to do with one another, but we want to leave the atmosphere so that everything is nice and controllable and predictable. So we have our hydrogen oxygen engines here, which are igniting as planned and taking the second stage onto orbit. Now, because of the scare on the Venus mission, we had taken a slightly steeper path on this ascent. Enjoy the second stage burn, by the way, at 10 times speed. Video time acceleration. I don't burn with time acceleration, but so because of that steeper ascent, I'm burning down a little bit to keep our apoapsis in check. Sure, it may not be quite as efficient as boosting it all out, but in the subsequent burn to Mars, we want to be as close to Earth as possible. So I'm making the trajectory a little bit weird to keep our ultimate apoapsis reasonable. Now, I should not forget that these Hydrolox engines have 10 restarts, so I still try to do everything in one burn. I don't have to do that. Looking at the probe, we are now in Earth orbit, by the way, and I use the MechJeb tool to plan a transfer window to Mars. I used a similar tool to just time the launch window, and here you get a pork chop where you can decide whether you want the most efficient or the one that leaves right now. Well, we've already picked an efficient one for the launch window, so we're going to go ASAP now, and that gives us a maneuver node to Mars on our current orbital path, and that would take us to Mars in a Mars transfer period about a year. So we have the maneuver node, and what I have tried on this mission is to use a reaction wheel for control to save weight on thrusters, but that has bitten me in the ass because the probe's reaction wheel is really tiny. You can't really shift this stack, so we're wasting some delta V's rotating it under power. Bit of a brute force solution, but it did work. So here we are in our Trans-Mars injection burn. Because the probe is pretty lightweight, the second stage still has more than enough delta V to get us all the way there, and it does so beautifully. Let's have a quick look at the map view to see what our orbit looks like. It isn't quite intercepting Mars yet. There's always some inaccuracies converting a theoretical MechJeb decided burn into a real world actual burn. So what I do is I focus the camera on Mars, and I grab the maneuver node editor and increment the 3 axes by 0.1 or 1 meter per second each, and see what yields the best, the closest approach. And that way I obtain a maneuver node that I can then subsequently execute, which is what is about to happen. Now we are in the luxurious situation that we have a second stage full of delta V yet, but we've ditched it because this last course correction burn, course fine-tuning burn, is only like 28 meters per second, and we'd have burned that turning around. So we're leaving a slightly still fueled second stage in space here, and we're continuing with a full up third stage that's only expended 24 meters per second. Should have a lot of capacity for maneuvering around Mars. Except there is a problem. Fast forward to about a week later in space, or actually a little bit more than a week later, and I actually, by the way, I disabled the transmission delay. It was causing me too much headaches. We still need to be connected via remote check, but we can control it. I am now the flight computer. Anyway, the problem is this. Look at the electric charge in the top right screen. It's draining, despite having 2 RTGs and 2 solar panels. Now, I looked long and hard, and it turned out there was a avionics unit sucking up 750 watts stupidly attached to the upper stage. So these probes require a redesign. Anyway, this necessitated the separation of probe and upper stage. The probe is still on a flyby trajectory, but of course without its propulsion unit, there is no chance of actually establishing orbit around Mars or exploring its moons. Here we are, fast forwarded to the encounter. Actually, not quite yet to the encounter. We are still in a solar orbit, just on the verge of entering the Martian sphere of influence. Here we are. Our periapsis is for about 18,500 kilometers. The contract was to fly by below 20,000, so we're looking good on fulfilling that, as long as we can keep a comlink active anyway. Here we are sending science home for the first time from Mars. Remember, the other probe we had did get here, but didn't have a communications link at the time. So we can put a contract successful for the science from Martian space bit. That has also completed the science return portion of the flyby contract. Now we only need to get below 20,000 kilometers. And look at that, we're on a beautiful trajectory to do just that. Now, the gravity scan had specific biome information. So I'm throttling back the time warp while we're still just under 300,000 kilometers out and throwing another science scan at Mars to claim that juicy science for more rockets. Fast forwarding to the periapsis yields the necessary parameters for the other contract, the flyby one. So let's throw one out there. That's another contract complete, which is giving us funds, reputation, and maybe even a few science points. I forgot what they were yielding. Unfortunately, no new orbiter in orbit around Mars. That's a bummer, but live and learn. And this mission took a year, and we didn't do anything else in the meantime, meaning that new technologies have been discovered. So next episode, we are going to be focusing on, well, I will have focused on redesigning a rocket. A new rocket with F1 Saturn V engines, with more advanced, more powerful upper stage liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen engines. And I think I'm going to give my probes no more kilowatt avionics, except instead kit them out with really small, efficient hydrogen thrusters or something sensible like that. So in the future, our probes should be a lot more capable. We can send them to interesting places like Jupiter and stuff, and hopefully take people to the moon. Those are our 2 goals. As always, thanks for watching. Click those like and subscribe buttons if you haven't already and feel like it today. And of course, I will see you at the next video. Have a wonderful weekend. I know I am. See you later.